Okay, hey folks, welcome back. Here's a Unity tutorial on how to use dialogue from Unity Playground for Unity 2022. There is an error that I'll show you how to fix and how to get it to work, but first let's take the steps to understand the dialogue system and how to get it to function. To do this, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Unity Technologies Playground folder, and I'm just going to put some things on the screen that will allow us to trigger the dialogue. So I'm going to go to Creatures. I'm going to grab one of these aliens to make my character, and it's on screen. I'm going to add a component of move. Once I have the move on there, it automatically makes it a rigid body. And what happens then is when I press play, the character will fall towards the ground. So the other thing that I'm going to do in order to create an interaction between objects is I'm going to throw a crate onto our scene. I'm going to scale it up a little bit, move it down and over perhaps a tiny bit. And then once I have that, I'm now going to add colliders to both of these objects. So here's my character. I'm going to add component of a poly collider 2D to that. I'm going to select my crate and I'm going to add a box collider 2D to that. And now when I press play, my creature will collide with the box and stop falling. Okay, so the way that the dialogue works is the dialogue is an action that needs to be called. To call it, we need to use a condition, which is also similar to an if statement. So what I'm going to do is on this box, I'm going to add a component of type condition. There's 4 conditions in Playground. There's an area, so that when you enter or exit or stay in an area, it will trigger. Collision, which we're going to use. Key press, if you want to just press a key and have it work. And then condition repeat for something that happens on a frequency. I'll probably, if y'all are interested, make videos explaining the dialogue system in more detail, but this first video, we're just going to get it to work, which I think is the major problem for most people. So I'm going to use condition collision. And once I have a condition on here, you can see that icon right there, which we can make larger by turning up our 3D icons. That icon says if in the upper left-hand corner. So this condition is basically an if statement. If something happens, if the conditions are met, then something else. And the something else is the then statement. So if the condition happens, then do these actions. And one of those actions is dialogue balloon action. Hey, if you're using Unity Playground and this doesn't show up, drop a comment in below and I'll link you to a video of how you can fix that. You should have it fixed in 2022 if you're using the Unity Playground version of 1.6 or better. Okay, so now when the condition is met, it's going to trigger the dialogue balloon. The dialogue balloon shows up down here. The text is going to be hey. It's going to be a gray background with white text, but it needs a target object. Where does the balloon pop up? So I want it to pop up on my creature, my controller, my player, the alien one, and I'm going to put it there. And so now if I go to test it, it's still not going to work. And I'll show you why. Creature falls and no dialogue happens. I get a little error down here, and it's because the dialogue system is all run through the UI. So we need to go to Unity Technologies Playground Prefabs. We grab our user interface, drag it into the hierarchy, and now when I press play, I'm going to have a little bit of a UI telling me health and score. And then when I hit something, the dialogue system is correctly being called, but there's something wrong. And this is the problem I've been having with Unity Playground 1.6 when I'm using Unity 2022. So this is how you fix that. The dialogue balloon is a prefab. And if you search for dialogue in your folder, it looks like I'm finding it in the prefabs, but maybe it's just in the assets in general. But this dialogue balloon It's also in Assets, Unity Technologies, Playground, Internal, Prefabs, Dialog Balloon. This is the problem. If I double click this, it will allow me to edit the dialog balloon. And there are a few components. There's the balloon itself, which should be scaling according to our text. There's the dialog text, which currently isn't showing up for us. And if we select it and go over here to the right, we can see why. The font appears to be missing. So something must have gotten removed in the 2022 version of Unity that is no longer allowing us to have our dialogue to work. So if I just click that little target button over here and select Legacy Runtime Font, and then I do the same for button to press text, and then close that. If I zoom out, that's the default. That's what it's going to look like. So let's go ahead and save our prefab by hitting the back button, saying save if I get that pop-up. And now when I press play, our dialogue works. Fantastic. So that's the way that you get the dialogue system to work. And if you run into that error, that's the way that you get around that error. If anyone from Unity happens to catch this video, that would be great if you could fix that in the next Unity Playground upgrade. Fantastic. Now, one small thing to note, I won't go into too much detail, but if I'm controlling the alien and I bump into this crate again, it's going to try and re-trigger my dialogue. And so it's going to give me an error down here. An action failed and interrupted the chain of actions. If you see warnings and you get worried, and you want to understand what those warnings are, this is what that means. The dialogue balloon is up. If you trigger the dialogue again, it can't give you the dialogue, so it gives you this warning. If you make the dialogue go away and then you bump into the crate again, it will re-trigger that dialogue. But if the dialogue balloon is there, it's a problem. Why does this matter? Well, it doesn't matter for me because I only have one dialogue balloon. But if you have a lot of different types of dialogues, it's a warning to tell you like, hey, you're trying to tell the player something and it's not working because they haven't clicked out. So press return, or the other thing that you can do, if I go to my crate and I go to my dialogue balloon, the other thing that you could do is think about changing this to time. So that way, after a count of 2, so just about 2 seconds, that hey will disappear. And then if I re-trigger it, but it is possible that someone might trigger your dialogue too quickly. So some things to keep in mind. If we were coding our own system, we might want to figure out a way to put those dialogue bubbles in a queue so that if there's something that is currently blocking your dialogue, you might say, when that dialogue is done, we'll do our next one. But we're not doing that. We're just working with Unity Playground so that we can have all these great tools that make it easier for us to build in Unity. So hopefully that lets you do some really amazing things with the dialogue system. Let me know if you run into any problems. Let me know what version of Unity you're working with, and I'll try and help you troubleshoot. And if there's interest, I'll try and build a longer video that goes more in depth about all of the different aspects of the dialogue system so that you can understand a little bit more what a rich and complicated system you can build with your dialogue. But have fun and let me know what you need.